I'm doing something I haven't done in a while, and it's a video around how I paint. I give pieces here and there to teach people. Maybe I'll do a TED Talks one day. But we're going to use my paint line today. There might be people that don't fully understand how versatile it is, considering it's all white, so I get you, right? I'm primering some spoons, so I can show you the different shades of the paint when they're on a spoon, and I can also show you how to layer your colors. My paint style is a lot like Warhammer 40K, but with an airbrush. That's the best way to put it. I tried to create the illusion of light, especially with splash paints, because they are much easier to use. They're already pre-thinned, and I know a lot of people don't like pre-thin, but this makes it easier for you to get that right level without having to go through the hassle of dealing with the airbrush spitting or something, or paint being too thick and it just completely washes out your previous color. With Splash, you don't have that issue. We're starting off with 004 of my paint line. You don't have to use this color. You could use any of the other colors you want if you wanted to have a base color that was darker per se, or even lighter. But I prefer to use 004 as my base color of white. This is a sort of grayish white. I'd lean more towards a gray. A few shakes of the lamb's tail and it's ready to spray. And we're just laying down those coats, man. This is one of my favorite colors, actually. I'm spraying 2 spoons with the base coat of 004. Now, I'm doing this to give you 2 different spray styles because everybody's different. You could take this and then run with it and do your own sort of thing. Once we have our base color down, we're going to jump to Splash Paint's Mecha White. These colors, my paint line, is meant to be used in tandem with the sister brands of the Splash Paints because they're all essentially the same paint brand. So it would make perfect sense that these paints blend together. I thought of that beforehand. Now what we're going to do is we're going to focus the Mecha White over the base color ever so slightly. I used a spoon because it's easier for you to get an idea of how light would reflect off a white spoon. And we're just going to hit the area that I think light will reflect off the spoon the most. This is all illusions I'm doing, really. It's a lot like drag queen makeup too when you think about it. Now, if you want to take it to another level, to make it just slightly whiter in the center, so you have now 3 shades of color, you can use pure white from Splash Paints, but at the dead center. And you don't want to overdo it or you wash out the Mecha White that you had beforehand, thus making all of your time and effort pointless. Remember, too many layers will only create diminishing returns. If you take it too far, you'll just wash out everything you did beforehand. Know when to quit. It's an important lesson in life. Next up, we're just going to do the other spoon with 001 of my paint line, Fetty White. So we're going to compare just 2 shades of coloring versus 3 shades. This will give you an idea of where you possibly want to go. I strongly recommend never going over 3 shades. Any higher, and as I said before, diminishing returns, a waste of time, and nobody will see it in videos or photos. I also do a light spray of the white over the entire spoon, but really far away. It's like a dusting. You don't have to do this, but you can if you want to. Now we can look at them in tandem together. It's going to be really hard for you to see a difference, I think, in camera, honestly. But if you've got good eyes, you can see it. One spoon looks slightly more natural and one seems slightly exaggerated. Or you could say one spoon has less light on it and the other spoon has a bit more light. It all depends on what you want to do. That's ultimately the goal here. This slight difference in color could be everything if you were painting a model kit for a competition, or if you're trying to get that certain transition of light, one direction light source, This can be applied to any way you want to paint kits. You're not limited in what you do. As Bruce Lee used to say, use no limitation as limitation. And hopefully this gives you an idea of what I'm trying to do. Also, the rest of the whites can be used for anything else, like maybe you want a darker gray panel, probably want a slightly different shade of white, maybe you want an eggshell white or a turtleish kind of white or bluish gray. But the whole point of this paint line is for people who wanted an easy go-to to have an idea of like what sort of white would I want to use on my Gundam model kit that's a resin kit and has a bunch of panels. And you could just go through this and have an easy okay, 3, 4, 5, whatever. Rather than spending hours like I have done numerous times in the last few years analyzing what color to use. I'm trying to save people from that because Lord knows time is short these days. But when it's all said and done, I did use these paints on the Gundam F90 Master Grade. I figured what better thing to use. Oh, by the way, if you're wondering what colors I used on the inner shield, that is, I believe, Xeon Gray from Splash Paint. So pretty much a lot of Splash Paints were used here. And here's the finished kit using my paint line. I didn't go too crazy with it. I kept it in a sort of 90s color palette and tones. I also made the blues a little darker. The yellows are a little too yellow in my opinion, but you know, aesthetics and all that. There are areas where you can see that I decided to use darker grays to split up all of the white of the Gundam. And that's pretty much what this line was for. I was going to use some other areas, but I didn't want to overdo it, you know? But here you go. Hopefully this gives you some idea of how you can use it beyond just, well, I hope this helps you figure out a way to use my paints in more than just a sort of, this panel's going to be a darker gray, or this panel's going to be an eggshell white. Now you can use them together to give yourself slightly more color variation or light tones on your white. Now that's going to do it for me. As the man who gave me my first airbrush said, do great things. Oh, I forgot to mention, you can still buy some of my paint. It's not really that much left. Last I checked with Splash Paints, they probably had 30 sets left. But on the plus side, there are still some left at Gundam Play Store. So go to Gundam Play Store or Splash Paints if you want to grab what's left.